Hello, I'm John Serenopoulos, and this is a life in the day of monarch raising.
Yay!
I got started maybe 3 years ago in 2023 when my mother-in-law, my cousin, his girlfriend started collecting monarchs and told us about it. And I was like, oh, that's definitely something I can do. And what stood out to me in that conversation was that only 3 to 5% of all the eggs that are laid actually turn into a butterfly. They, could get eaten, destroyed, the weather, lots of other things. And by raising them, finding the eggs and raising them to butterfly, you increase their chances. And last year I had over 50 eggs, and I had a 95% success rate to butterfly, from egg to butterfly. So that's really the goal here, is to get as many butterflies out in the sky so we could enjoy them and it could increase their population and everything. So the first thing I do in the morning, and then also sometimes in the afternoon, is go and I look for the eggs. Now the eggs are only laid on milkweed, typically on the bottom side of the leaf. So I flip under every leaf, and the trick that I found last year, I actually saw a monarch butterfly laying their eggs, and they were not laying them on mature plants. We saw it lay on like plants this tall and on the tiniest leaves, and you'll see a couple in just a moment of how tiny the leaf is that the eggs were being laid on. Now you could of course find them in bigger leaves than I do, but the number of eggs that I find on the tiny baby plants is really how I got to so many last year, and how I feel like I can get to 100 this year. So that's my goal, is
Yay!
100 eggs. And as you can see, I number each one, and we're on 8 right now. So on July 4th, I found these 5. And the beginning of the season is kind of tricky. So here is, so I put a name tag to each one, and I say when I found them as an egg, when they hatched, when they went into the chrysalis, and then like a male butterfly and the date that it, emerged from the cocoon. So I've been looking for a while. I started really early this year. Last year, my first one I found in the beginning of July, but this year, May 22nd, I found my first one, and it actually was on a big leaf there. And not until the 28th did I find another, and then on June 12th, I found my third one. So at the beginning of the season, the eggs are harder to find because they're just migrating back from, being born and raised in Mexico and flying up north. So these ones get laid in New York, the eggs, and then their goal is to then reproduce locally and lay more eggs to make the population larger, which you can kind of already see. So I found 3 within almost a month span, but then these 3 went and reproduced and laid eggs, and this is about the time of when the eggs would be found from these butterflies. So I already have 5 from yesterday, and I'm hoping it's gonna start to climb mid-July. Last year I was finding anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 a day. So mid-July is really the time that you'll start to see that a lot of eggs are being produced. And then it's about a month process. So you see I found the egg on May 22nd, and it didn't hatch until June 22nd. So it's almost exactly a month. So May 28th, June 29th. So they'll do one more cycle where they will stay local, and they'll develop their reproductive organs here, and then mate and lay eggs. And then the ones that are laid and in August and September, those ones will then migrate to Mexico. They'll actually delay the developing their reproductive organs so that they save energy. And they'll do that once they're in Mexico. They'll feed off of the flowers on their way to gather energy, and then they'll reproduce there. So it's a multi-generational migration. It's not like the same butterfly is born in New York, flies all the way to Mexico, and flies all the way back to New York. That's not how it is. It's one generation will lay eggs in New York, and then they'll have a couple generations in New York to gather the numbers, fly down to Mexico, then they will lay eggs, and after they lay eggs, they don't live that long, and then they'll lay eggs, and those ones will then make their way back to New York. So really fascinating process. I am no super, I'm a hobbyist that really started enjoying this, and like we just released the butterfly a little while ago, and it's so exciting. So it's a lot of joy to do this. So yeah, we'll just go right into what they kind of look like. And in the beginning, I was putting them all in one big tank, and there were a couple problems that I saw where they were cocooning on the side of the cage. They were also like if you have a big caterpillar, they could accidentally eat the egg of another one. So this keeps them separate. A lot of things still in the containers raising them can go wrong. So like wasps lay their eggs inside the caterpillar. So if you find a caterpillar and collect them, it might not make it to a butterfly. It might, fuel the wasp. It's just this little space, right? But they live their whole life like on a leaf and will live on that leaf. They don't even explore the tank until weeks in, and they're eating about half a leaf a day. That's when they'll pick up and eat a lot, but they don't really explore. So them just being on their leaf, that is their habitat. Oh, and then when it's a little caterpillar, it truly stays to the leaf for a couple weeks. When it's big, I do put them on tighter, but I'm also changing their leaves multiple times. So this is the size of the leaf that I found the egg on, and you can see right on the underside is the leaf, is the egg. And if you zoom in, and we'll have pictures of the eggs as well, they're kind of like a football shape, with the point side touching the bottom and then also going up, and then it's like has lines in it like a pumpkin. So sometimes when you're looking, you might think you have a monarch egg, but milkweed bleeds like a white milk that then sometimes makes a dot like this. So if you look real close, I always use my camera to, you can see kind of the pumpkin striped. It'll stay in an egg for about 3 days if you get it right when the monarch lays it. So I found these yesterday. They'll hatch. The first thing they do is eat their egg because it has, nutrients and everything in it. And then they'll stay on this little leaf, hardly eating anything. You hardly notice it once it starts growing. So most caterpillars, once they're now a caterpillar, they go through these stages called instars, and they shed out off of their skin, and then they are sometimes a different color or completely different looking. With monarchs, they're usually just about the same. Their antennas, what look like antennas, kind of vary, and their striping becomes more distinct later on when they're bigger and in bigger instars. Then they will go into a wandering phase once they're big enough and they're eating a leaf a day. So these things poop. They poop a lot, and when they are eating half a leaf a day, this tank, you're constantly cleaning it out too. So where it rapidly picks up, where I'm feeding lots of leaves to them, so I'm going out and collecting leaves. I do like to wash the leaves, make sure there's no insects or anything that could harm them. So I kind of do a quick hot rinse on a leaf before I put them in the tank. And even when I collect this egg, they do get glued really well down onto the egg, but I like to just rinse and wash off the leaf on both sides. I'm gonna put the little egg down here. So I will take wherever the caterpillar is, it's usually still on the leaf, and it usually doesn't eat the stem, and it'll stay on the stem. So I'll take that leaf up, or sometimes if it's, you know, still pretty small, I'll cut around it. If the leaf starts getting yellow or brown, and I want to change it to a fresh leaf, I'll cut around the caterpillar, and I'll put that like up there, and then I just completely wash and make sure I don't throw away the caterpillar. Water in the corner where the leaf goes down to keep the leaf fresh. Again, where it's the cutout with the caterpillar on it. I am changing or adding leaves to it every day, and the amount of leaf that you see is the amount of poop that you're gonna get. So if it's eating a whole leaf, it is quite a lot. So every time I add a leaf, I do like to clean it, just to make sure it's as hygienic as possible in there. Just for the process of that, so it was hanging as a cocoon, and we have some cool videos of them going from caterpillar to cocoon that you'll see, but it stays in the caterpillar, in the cocoon that's green for a while, and then it will start to, air will start to get in on the last day that it's a cocoon, and it will turn clear so you can actually see the butterfly. So you'll see its dark wings and a little bit of orange, and that's when you know it's going to hatch. So last night I saw it starting to get a little dark, and I was like, oh, I wonder if the timing is gonna work, if they're gonna be hatched yet. And I thought I predicted it was gonna be a little later in the day too, but when I woke up and checked on them around 8 o'clock was when it came out of the cocoon, and then we ended up releasing it at probably 11:30, 11:45 today. So they stay in here as a butterfly for just a little bit. They'll hold on to their cocoon, and their wings will pump full of air, and while they release liquid to dry their wings. And that could take a few hours to a day, but this one was already flapping its wings, and that's kind of the sign of it wants to go outside. Now, it can fly away right then, or we'll put it on a plant, and it could hang there for many more hours before it flies away. But this one, it felt the fresh air. It was a nice day, so it took off. It was our first female of the year, which I like because that's the one who's laying all the eggs, right? Doing the hard work, and you know, I'm following them hopefully and collecting all their eggs. Then over here, aside from the monarchs, this year I found two swallowtail, I believe they're going to be black swallowtail caterpillars. Now they're both found on the same plant, same size, so I'm thinking they're from the same, because they'll lay in clusters, whereas monarchs will lay just one. And when I say clusters, not like a bunch, but they'll lay a few on the same plant. So they're probably siblings, and the point of that is I found this when they cocooned on a fresh queen, I forget the plant name, but
Queen Anne's lace?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, and that's what they eat. It kind of looks like parsley, and so that's what I was feeding them, and that's what it cocooned on. And it cocooned green because it was on that plant. But what is super interesting is that this one cocooned on the branch here, and you could go inside there, and they actually match the color of what they are cocooning onto. So that cocoon to me looks exactly like that branch, even with the lichen on it as well. And I found that to be so amazing. They also have little silk, they call it a seat belt. You can kind of you can see it in the video there. It loops around itself so it can hang on there. So I found that really interesting. That's the first time I've raised anything other than a monarch, but other than a monarch, but I'm glad I found it so cool that I got 2 different cocoons out of the same family there. So it has to be inherently like instinctual
It's
or
just
something,
amazing.
kind of like how they know to just eat like
Right.
these leaves and not other leaves. What's interesting about a milkweed is it is toxic, but for them they use it so that their body becomes toxic, so that if a bird eats it, they'll learn over time that it doesn't taste good, it makes them sick, so it's like a natural defense to them. So one might get eaten, but then it allows that bird never to eat another monarch. So an egg to a caterpillar, okay, that makes sense. It's like a little egg and then it hatches out, it grows. And then when it goes from instar to instar, it's pretty interesting too. It's kind of like a snake shedding its skin. And then they actually do eat that, which I think is also pretty interesting. But when they go into a chrysalis, they don't actually make like the cocoon around themselves. They have it inside them and they shed their skin off, and the cocoon is like was inside of them and now they're just hanging there. And they then for the next day or so fully dissolve all their organs, their entire body into a liquid, and it'll be in a liquid and they're rearranging and turning into the butterfly that we know. It's so science fiction. And so when you're saying like, how do they know how to fly? Well, their brain just got dissolved and is now turned into a butterfly. So I can't even grasp how memory or like how these these bugs, have instincts to do all this. But if you don't want to even raise them, planting native milkweed is really important. Not mowing as often is really important, and just being aware of that and maybe spreading the word will help maybe someone else become a monarch hobbyist. And even if you don't want to buy milkweed, because some garden centers do have them, in the coming months the milkweed will develop like a pod, and you can save those seeds and plant them next year. So it's hundreds of seeds for free that you can just find all throughout, and spreading them is a good way to make the milkweed population out there so that the monarchs can lay their eggs and eat. And one last fact is, or what I've observed and saw people mentioning, is that monarchs, when they're flying, they usually lay their eggs on the edge of a field. So the milkweed that's on the edge of a field is a good spot to look. Thank you, and I hope this inspires other people to pick up this hobby. If you have any questions, you can reach out. The internet has been super helpful for me, and I might not have all the answers, and I might be doing something wrong, who knows. My survival rate, I think, is really great, so it's working. But other people use nets and other types of enclosures, and those work just as well.